So if he's sending all the criminals away, where is he going?
The Titanic is sinking. I've got a life raft for my family, but anyone else who challenged Trump, you better swim or you're drowning.
Was spotlighting Snoop is because of the things that Snoop Dogg said.
Welcome to Freedom and Liberty Watch, where today we're dissecting the most spectacular display of liberal hypocrisy yet. The View's hosts have outdone themselves with their inauguration meltdown. Watch as they mock Trump's Liberation Day while conveniently forgetting their own celebration of government control during lockdowns. See them defend Biden's blanket family pardons while clutching their pearls over January 6th pardons. And perhaps most revealing, witness their stunning attempt to police black performers' choices, showing just how quickly their diversity and inclusion facade crumbles when minorities dare to think independently. Ladies and gentlemen, prepare yourselves for The View's masterclass in cognitive dissonance. These self-appointed guardians of democracy are about to lecture us about Trump's inauguration speech while completely ignoring the economic devastation their preferred policies have wreaked on everyday Americans. Notice how they'll mock border security while living in their gated Manhattan communities. And watch closely as these champions of follow the science suddenly discover their deep concern for biological reality. Let's watch.
American citizens, January 20th, 2025 is Liberation Day. We're returning millions and millions of criminal aliens. A society that is colorblind and merit-based. There are only two genders, male and female.
So if he's sending all the criminals away, where is he going? And what better way to unify the country than by ripping families apart and punishing anyone who doesn't fall in line?
He didn't say carnage, but he said carnage pretty much in everything else. It had this godlike complex without any Jesus qualities.
That same man saying that he was going to get rid of diversity, equity, and inclusion.
One of the problems. There are no guardrails on Trump right now.
No.
There is nobody in that cabinet. There's no John Kelly. There's no General Mattis. There is nobody to push back on him when he calls and he says something absolutely insane.
Where do we even begin with this spectacular display of elitism? Joy Behar's clever quip about "where is Trump going" perfectly encapsulates The View's intellectual depth. All snark, zero substance. Let's break down their selective outrage. First, they mock Trump's Liberation Day declaration, while conveniently forgetting their enthusiastic support for lockdowns that destroyed small businesses and children's education. These are the same hosts who cheered on mask mandates and vaccine passports, but now they're suddenly concerned about personal freedom? Their reaction to Trump's gender policy announcement is particularly rich. These are the same people who spent the last 4 years unable to define what a woman is, now suddenly discovering their passion for biological reality. The hypocrisy is almost artistic in its perfection. But perhaps most telling is what they didn't discuss: Trump's economic promises. Why the silence? Could it be because explaining away empty shelves, skyrocketing inflation, and $5 gas under Biden's watch requires more mental gymnastics than even The View's Olympic-level performers can manage? Now brace yourselves for the most stunning display of selective outrage you'll witness this century. Watch as these hosts perform Olympic-level mental gymnastics, defending Biden's preemptive family pardons while comparing January 6th protesters to Hamas terrorists. The cognitive dissonance here is so thick you could serve it for dinner. Let's watch.
This is January 6th. These are the hostages. Approximately 1,500 for a pardon. Full pardon.
I don't know what a hostage is, because there are still hostages right now in the Middle East. They were terrorized by Hamas and have not all come back. So that's a hostage. This was the biggest middle finger he could give the entire country.
I think it's really disgraceful.
I was floored that Joe Biden pardoned his whole family. Let me tell you why. He's either, the most charitable interpretation is, the Titanic is sinking, I've got a life raft for my family, but anyone else who challenged Trump, you better swim or you're drowning. That's my most charitable interpretation.
Because Joe Biden's family and the people he pardoned in the January 6th committee have not actually committed crimes. He is trying to prevent them from spending the rest of their lives fighting the government, which is no easy feat.
I was not offended by Biden pardoning his family, because we know that this administration is a vengeful one. We know this is a vengeful man. And if I can protect me and mine, I would do that. And so I think we need to show Joe Biden some grace.
This segment perfectly encapsulates everything wrong with modern liberal thinking. Let's dissect this masterpiece of hypocrisy. These are the same hosts who spent years chanting "no justice, no peace," and defending violent protesters who burned cities, now suddenly discovering their deep reverence for law and order. The same people who celebrated letting violent criminals out of jail during COVID now clutching their pearls over January 6th pardons. Sarah Haynes comparing January 6th defendants to Hamas terrorists isn't just intellectually dishonest. It's a perfect example of how The View trivializes actual terrorism for political points. And their selective amnesia about Biden's family pardons? Fascinating how preemptively pardoning your entire family is just good governance when your team does it. But here's what's truly remarkable. These hosts spent years demanding criminal justice reform, arguing against solitary confinement, and advocating for prisoner rights. Yet when it comes to January 6th defendants, suddenly they're perfectly fine with indefinite detention and harsh treatment. The principles vanish faster than Joy Behar's political consistency. And now for the crown jewel of liberal condescension, watch The View's hosts demonstrate their version of diversity and inclusion by attempting to shame successful Black entrepreneurs for making their own choices. Because apparently freedom only applies when you're following their approved script. Let's watch.
There are these Black performers. You mentioned that there were entertainers at the inauguration. There are these Black performers that were performing for Snoop Dogg, Nelly, a couple of others. And I saw Keith Boykin, a friend of mine, say something that I thought was really important, and I wanted to play that clip.
You dishonor those people when you go and perform for this man who has done nothing but dishonor Black people.
I think what Keith said is so important for us to remember, that this is who Donald Trump is.
So you're saying that those two guys should not be?
No, it was more than the two of them. But listen, I think it was them, and it was so many other people. The thing that really I think was spotlighting Snoop is because of the things that Snoop Dogg said 10 days before the inaugural in 2017. And so look, if you opposed and stood up against Trump in 2017, but you were there now, if you spoke up against Trump January 7th, 2021, but you were there now applauding him like a trained SEAL.
This segment is a masterclass in liberal gatekeeping. Let's unpack this stunning display of progressive paternalism. The same hosts who constantly preach about Black empowerment and independence suddenly become very uncomfortable when that independence leads to choices they don't approve of. Watch how quickly their support for Black voices evaporates when those voices don't parrot their preferred narrative. They conveniently ignore that Snoop Dogg and Nelly are successful entrepreneurs who've built their own empires and can make their own decisions. The sheer audacity of these Manhattan studio hosts sitting in their ivory tower, telling successful Black artists what they're allowed to do with their careers, now that's what I call progressive. The irony is delicious. These are the same people who lecture us about staying in our lane and checking our privilege. Yet here they are attempting to dictate how Black performers should think and act. Their message is clear: diversity and inclusion are wonderful, as long as you conform to their approved political stance. My fellow patriots, if you're as outraged as I am by The View's blatant condescension towards successful Black entrepreneurs, smash that like button and share this video. The liberal elites attempt to shame accomplished artists like Snoop Dogg and Nelly for their independent choices shows their true colors. They only support diversity when it follows their prescribed narrative. Here's the burning question I want you to wrestle with in the comments. When did The View's hosts become the gatekeepers of Black success in America? Should successful Black entrepreneurs who've built their own empires need permission slips from Manhattan elites before making career decisions? Remember, patriots, your voice matters. Share this video, join the conversation below, and let's remind these liberal hosts that in America, success knows no political party. See you on Freedom and Liberty Watch, where we continue to shine the spotlight on the daily hypocrisy of daytime TV's most sanctimonious echo chamber.